Welcome back to the show, Billy and Sara. I have you guys here to talk about current events. For the audience, we last saw Billy on the show from the episode From Analog to Algorithms, Billy Dees and the State of Podcasting and Politics. And Sara's last episode was Beauty, Broken Cities, and a conversation with Sara Alessandrini. And those both came out somewhat recently. So if you haven't listened to them yet, give them a listen to learn a little bit more about these guys. But I'll go ladies first. Sara, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a filmmaker, so we talk on this podcast many times, actually. So I made a documentary that actually, well, it's kind of like relevant today for the conversation we're having, because my documentary is about Andrew Cuomo. So from the moment that he was so popular during the COVID pandemic to when he was forced to resign with accusation of sexual harassment and everything that happened in the years later until he just decided to run for the campaign for mayor of New York City. And so that documentary shows through the media coverage to whatever happened. And it also shows like during the pandemic, the coverage and how he was also criticized for the way he handled COVID. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's pretty much why I did that documentary that explore the perspective of New Yorkers, starting from that to different topics. And so beyond that, I comment on politics on many different topics, pretty much everything. I live in Newark now, been in Los Angeles for 11 years, but I'm from Italy. So I have a perspective that is very international, I've seen different places, different lives.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it. All right, how about you, Billy?
I really don't do much of anything. I just kind of hang out online and try to piss people off.
Yeah.
But I'm probably best known for the Billy Dees podcast, and that's been around it's over 10 years now, and we cover a lot of stuff, including current events, authors, people with an issue that they want to raise awareness for, all that kind of thing. So we kind of mix things up a little bit. I did a series of lives I had a co-host, and she's still a very good friend of mine. Her name is Cynthia. We did about a year's worth of lives once a week leading up to the election of 2024. Oh, and that was a great experience. It really was. I enjoy what we're doing here. I think there's a certain vibrance that this type of format has. Nothing against somebody who's telling their own story. I mean, that's a great thing. But I think there's a certain vibrance and a certain relevance to what you're trying to do with these kind of shows. And I can appreciate that. That's awesome.
Thank you. I was kind of thinking about it and I'm like, well, some of the formats with some of the other shows, that's not, if I were to leave the very good job that I have now, I would want to be able to talk about current events and stuff. So I'm trying to make more episodes like that where I can just talk to people that I enjoy talking with and cover what's in the news cycle. So I'm happy you guys were able to join me today. All right. So let's get into what I think is probably the biggest, but there's been a lot of big things in the news. The Anthony Fauci testimony, the cell phone, the digital diary. What do you guys think about it? I'll let Sara go first.
Yeah,
you want me to go first?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there is so much we could say about that. Well, first of all, let me say on what side of the aisle I am, so the audience knows I'm not one of those people against vaccine. I'm very down for getting vaccines, listening to what the government had to say. And my documentary also about COVID, like people criticize Cuomo, but I always defended him for the way he handled COVID. So I'm technically the audience of the Democrats on all of this, which paradoxically, the Democrats lost me also during COVID, but for other reasons too, for like a lot of this reason too. But so I am the Democrat audience. I'm not the ones that are looking to criticize Fauci. I don't like scapegoating because also every time there is an issue, it's never only one person. Doesn't matter how big it is, even if it's like fascism, it was not only Mussolini, obviously. there was like a whole system, a lot of people responsible. So I don't like pointing the finger towards one person. So like on that sense, I was never excited about Fauci during COVID. I never really liked him necessarily as much. I didn't hate him, but I didn't like him as other people that I knew. They were like loving Fauci. He was the best thing ever. But I could see the contradiction even way before this happened. I remember there was one time, I don't remember what it was, but he was saying, oh, we don't have enough information to take this decision and say whether this is good or not. I was like, okay. The week later, he comes back and he say, okay, we have enough information, so we're going to do this and that. And I'm like, in 1 week, you got all the information? Like, research takes time. But even like the COVID vaccine, I'm all for taking. You have to take risks in life. So I took the COVID. I'm not against it. But at the same time, you cannot say it's 100% safe when normally to make a vaccine, it takes 10 years of studies. It's not something that in 8 months you make it. So I'm all for supporting you getting the vaccine. And of course, there was a priority there to get people vaccinated. But at the same time, don't say it's 100% safe because you cannot find out that in a couple of months of research and studies. So we need to be more honest about that.
Yeah. How about you, Billy?
This whole thing is bad on many levels. I think the first and foremost is now anything involving a contagion is going to be viewed as bullshit, no matter what it is. Bubonic plague could start spreading across the nation. There'll be people saying, "Oh, that's bullshit." So the credibility now with what has happened with governmental officials, the medical community, and to a degree the scientific community, the credibility now is in a very bad position. So the next time one of these comes along, I think the president, whoever that may be, is going to have a very difficult balancing act to be believable in a situation that he or she may not even know all the facts yet either. Because these things often develop in a way that, the truth, finding the truth is a process. And that would lead me to the other big failure here is when you have something unfolding like this, here again, finding the truth is a process. And so many online, we won't mention which ones, forums dropped people who questioned to the slightest degree. The figures that I'm hearing is that 1 million videos were pulled down. Of people who questioned, and I don't mean questioned in some terrible way, but just said, well, what is this vaccine? How was it developed? How is it out so soon? How does an mRNA, vaccine work? All of these people were painted as buffoons and painted as conspiracy theorists, when in fact a lot of things were right about what they were saying or what they had suspicions about. One, that is not that effective. Stephen Smith said, Stephen A. Smith, he made the comment that he got 2 vaccines and he still ended up getting it. And, so this idea that it was so effective is questionable. It's also very questionable, too, how safe it was. There's a lot more information coming out all the time now about it. Just recently, one of the things that Fauci apparently said was about the way it could impact a pregnancy was a question early on, and that wasn't presented. So the amount of harm that it has done is very, like I said, you can't even begin to really measure it. And Fauci's at a big part of it, but he's not the only part of it. The only other thing, too, is with the lab. Here again, the people who talked about the Wuhan lab, here were painted as conspiracy theorists, when the fact of the matter is that all kinds of research was going on there. As a matter of fact, the Obama administration, I don't know that they expressly said anything about the research that was being done there, but they did pull funding for a lot of the research that was going on there. And of course, people proceeded with it anyway, and they ended up with a monster that they couldn't contain. So now you have something breaking loose that was meddled in And that really wasn't talked about too much. And if you dared mention it, you were a conspiracy theorist. The whole thing was just a gigantic mess. And the harm that it has done in terms of what kind of trust we're going to have again when the next pandemic comes along, and there will be another one, is going to be very highly in question.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all that. My experience with it was interesting because I had just finished taking all of these biology courses. I had just learned how to calculate and create that curve. You remember it was like 2 weeks to flatten the curve or whatever it was. And then herd immunity, I'd studied that in genetics. And of course, I forgot to look it up before today, but it was a declaration, and it was like over 10,000 scientists who were trying to push the idea of herd immunity. And of course, all of these scientists, all of these doctors that spoke out against how Fauci and the mainstream media were addressing COVID, they got silenced. They got taken off. I had posted a report on the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine, and that was shadow banned. Other stuff was taken down, and these were scientific reports that had been published years before this came out, because there's I think it's 6 other types of coronaviruses. So it's like, okay, well, no, it's not COVID-19, but it's the same type of virus. So, but of course, since Trump was encouraging or saying like, hey, look into this, they want to say it's bad. Same with the ivermectin. So I guess to me, I'm like, well, my teachers all just taught me this stuff, and now they're backpedaling and saying we can't come back to school, we can't do all these things for something that I was just taught was the opposite. So that was just very, very frustrating. And I think it's alarming that we are only accepting certain types of science. Only because you can manipulate data, you can choose to ignore certain cases. I don't know. I just think
and also
that's
depending, someone might found a research and then they're just showing that specific type of research and data. So yeah.
So I want to hear about how things were for you guys in your state dealing with this. Oh yeah, and then there were also like all these Facebook groups that kept getting pulled down of people talking about the side effects they're having from the COVID vaccine, including miscarriages. And so people were trying to warn each other, hey, I had a miscarriage after having this vaccine, but Facebook was deleting all these groups, pulling everything down so that we couldn't even warn each other. But I was lucky because Iowa handled COVID pretty well. We didn't shut a lot of stuff down. But yeah, Sarah, how was it like you were in LA at this time, right?
It was totally fine. Like, of course,
okay.
I was in California, Los Angeles, but also all my friends were in Italy. And in Italy, it was really, really bad. The closure, the rules, like people adopted animals, dogs, because if they walk on the street for something that was not mandatory, you could be fined in Italy. So people adopted dog just to have an excuse because you have to walk the dog on the street. So it was very different. So people were really only allowed to go to the grocery store, no working, no nothing. And for me in California, my theater closed, obviously. So I was the facility manager of a big theater, and it closed. So, and then we sold it to Netflix, and eventually we did the renovation. So it never really opened because the pandemic happened in March, and theaters could reopen in California, or at least in Los Angeles. I think it was May of 2021. So more than a year later. But besides that, people talk about how strict it was in California, but you could always walk on the street. There was no issue. And because everybody's very distanced anyway in Los Angeles, like you don't really get that close to other people. like I was volunteering for the food bank. So I would go there, I take public transportation. It was not an issue. No one would really police you to actually check that. Of course, places were closed. But yeah, so it wasn't that bad per se that like you couldn't even go on the street.
Mhm.
And it was a very different experience. I think we have to remember every place is very different, because even in Los Angeles, the majority of the people, like there were a lot of people that would say, I'm not going to get COVID, because in Los Angeles, you don't really get close to people. You always have that kind of like 6 feet distance anyway. You don't really get together. You're always in a workplace. Places are pretty big. Apartments, the street, people are very far from you compared to New York. I got COVID twice, and it was both times when I was in New York.
Really?
Both times, never in Los Angeles. So yeah, I think so. But I know in New York it was very different, because people here, like the disease, people are so close to each other in closed spaces, and people, it's so easy to get it in New York compared to when you're in Los Angeles. So that's for sure very different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about you, Billy?
In Ohio, I don't think it was that bad. We the Republican governor Mike DeWine, for some reason, he's not really liked by a lot of other Republicans right now. We're moving into a new cycle, and Vivek Ramaswamy is the Republican that's looking like he's probably going to be the next governor of Ohio. But anyway, Mike DeWine, I think, and I'll say this for most of the politicians in the beginning, I would be very likely to listen if I was in a position of authority politically. If the medical community was telling me something, whether I believed it or not, I would be very hesitant to go against it, because if I did, and hundreds of thousands of people ended up dead in my state, everybody said, well, the governor ignored the people, the medical community. So in the beginning, I believe that our governor and Trump at the time was listening to people, including Fauci, and what he was recommending. And, that's would be the safe way to go. As time went on, the truth was starting, and we know that now. If you go back through some of the stuff that's being testified to right now, the truth was starting to become known. So then what was the motive? And we could speculate a lot about it. A lot of people on the right say that it was a power grab. It was designed to make once they got this bad situation. There's an old saying in politics: is you never let a crisis go to waste. Right. And a lot of Democrats pounced on this crisis in a way to harm Trump politically for the next election. And here again, I'm not for or against Trump per se, but I know that the Democrats were using a lot of this to manipulate the situation and make certain aspects of the economy suffer. And also, too, it's power. A lot of these politicians, and I would probably say this across the board, when you start getting the power to turn things on and off, you don't want to give it up. And that was going on, too. And I really, I think in terms of celebrity culture, since COVID, I've noticed that there isn't the love of celebrities that there used to be. And this is a lot of because they spent a lot of time talking down to Americans. They spent a lot of time scaring people that they were going to die if they didn't get a vaccine, that they were going to die if they didn't wear a mask, that they were going to die if this, that, and the other thing. And they would then jet set off to someplace and lay on the beach and not give a darn about it. Jimmy Kimmel said that, I don't know the exact words, I'm paraphrasing here, but if two people come into the emergency room and they're both dying and one has a vaccine and the other one doesn't, well, the one that doesn't, that's too bad. Okay. And he said that on the basis of what we're hearing now. Okay. So I think that really talks volumes as to what kind of a person you would have to be to say something like that. And hearing all these, I plead the fifth answers to all of the medical decisions that were being made. On the basis of that, you would sentence somebody to death, to non-treatment. Yeah. That's how bad the celebrities were. So overall, I think Ohio managed it pretty well. And as the news started to break and things started to loosen around the country, when it was pretty obvious that Florida wasn't going to break off and fall into the ocean because everybody that was dying from COVID, I think Ohio followed pretty soon right after that. I think, and I got to give props to Florida, DeSantis and the whole bit. They never really took this and never really took it lock, stock, and barrel. They never did.
Yeah, that's kind of like Iowa, and when it began, it's like, okay, fine, I'll stay inside for 2 weeks to make sure everybody's safe. But then, like, as the days continue and the curve flattens, but they're still wanting us to keep locked down. And then suddenly it's months later that we're still things. Yeah. I was actually traveling and in the airport when they finally said we don't have to wear masks on the plane and in the airports. And it was wonderful just watching everyone take them off and throw them in the trash. Now, so in speaking of masks and the 6-foot social distancing, Fauci kind of admitted that, like, it couldn't hurt. He wasn't actually like confident that it was any of that was even going to help. And I believe he even admitted that he doesn't quite remember where the 6-foot social distancing came from, or that was just like, oh, I don't know, 6 feet. This man is just so obsessed with himself that, Senator Hawley warned him, you don't have your Fifth Amendment rights because you've been pardoned, but he wants so badly to look good that I don't see any other reason for him to plead the Fifth 111 times other than he wanted to save his own reputation.
I mean, I think that's more the lawyers that told him to. So I don't think it would have been necessarily his decision. But that's, to me, obviously, I'm not a citizen, so I had to really look into what the Fifth Amendment actually means in that specific case, because I don't know how many people know that you cannot just like claim it for everything, just like a blanket thing. It needs to be like related to the question. It's really about you, not like if you're risking to go to jail for that question, then okay, you can use it. But the question about the floor color and everything, from what I was reading, that doesn't apply. And so, well, actually, my high school teacher always said, if you want to cheat, you have to be smarter than the honest people. And so in this case, Senator Hawley, he showed he was smart how to catch him. So, and he asked those questions. So it's interesting. But yeah, like obviously that was pretty bad in general, because it gives you the impression that he is guilty just for not answering any question. But if you don't ask a certain question, is one thing. If you answer no question at all, okay, that really seems very dishonest and bad in this moment. And yeah, especially for the fact that he also had the immunity. So yeah, I understand it's a trap. But again, if you're so smart and so honest, you have to play better your game. If you know people are going to be cheating and try to trap you. So I think it was really bad what happened. But I question, and I ask you, how many people do really understand that the Fifth Amendment cannot apply to any random question, and it's only for those specific questions? Like, is that taught in school? Do people understand that?
I'm going to say that it's not taught in school. I don't remember ever really going through the amendments. Or the Bill of Rights or any of that thing to any great degree, other than a blanket statement that the Bill of Rights is this great series of 10, blah, blah, blah. Self-incrimination is kind of hard to define. And I would imagine it probably gets used in a lot of cases where it's to be used, or if it's in a gray area, you can probably get away with it in those two areas. Because self-incrimination can mean a lot of different things. I'm pretty sure that the idea of having him plead the Fifth, or essentially not say anything to any of the questions, was to not get in a quagmire of an argument or the details of something. It just wasn't at this time what they wanted to have happen. So rather than get tangled up in the details of some scenario that he's being accused of, they just have him, even if he's innocent, the details could potentially sound bad. So the decision was just made not to say anything. And that's probably understood by most people. I'm pretty sure that was the strategy, because there's a lot you could ask him about that was pretty serious, and getting back to what was known about the vaccine very early on, what was known about the source of the virus, what was known about a lot of different things. Those are much more serious questions than, some of the bizarre things that are in that diary, for example. Yeah. What I just mentioned, far more serious than his self, what's the word, aggrandizement that he seemed to have. I still don't understand why somebody of that age was keeping a diary and why he was doing it on public resources. I have no idea.
I never understand either. Like, especially if you're like such a high-profile person, everybody know everybody hates you, and you write down everything. It's crazy.
No, yeah. I've never understood.
But it's like the people that send like their pictures, I don't know, was that Eric Swalwell or something? Like, it was sending naked pictures. Like, someone is going to use it against you. Why do you do that?
I mean, Anthony Weiner, there's been a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I don't, I mean, the whole concept of well, first of all, yes, there's the aspect of you're leaving a trail for people to investigate. Okay. That's probably a bad thing. Yeah. You're doing it on public. If he'd wrote it in a notebook and kept it under his pillow, nobody would have ever known about it. Okay. But he didn't. And I kind of question, what was the purpose? And I'm getting up there too. I'm not being anti-age, whatever. But when you're in your 80s, why are you keeping a diary? What are you going to be reflecting on? Are you going to be going through a Ouija board sometime 30 years from now, looking at your diary? I mean, I don't get it. It's like you're 16
I guess like if everybody wants to write books. Especially it was like when you're those kind of profile, then everybody's interested, then you can sell your ideas and everything. So I'm assuming it would be for something like that.
That's a good point, because I think I did read that he got a couple book deals possibly out of this whole thing. So that, but also I feel like scientists, in a lot of doctors, they do kind of journal to keep track, but some of that stuff in there was not science related. Like I bet it probably was for the book and just to write about himself. Maybe.
From what I'm gathering, it wasn't that well lettered. So I just think the whole thing is pretty bizarre. We should have learned a long time ago. Getting back to the Ouija board, we can have a seance here, and Richard Nixon will tell you, don't record anything.
Yeah, right. It's don't leave evidence.
You don't have it on tape. I didn't say it.
So now I know that Rand Paul is it was voted to hold him in contempt, and he's sending that to the DOJ. And then we've got Florida, West Virginia, and one other state, now I can't think of it, Louisiana, that are all filing state charges. And Rand Paul and Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin are helping the states out by giving them his phone files or whatever, the phone records, and all the evidence that they have. Do you think the contempt charge or any of these state charges will land?
You mean like he's going to go to jail?
Or like, do you think because they actually, the state has to figure out what they're even going to charge him for. To me, it sounds like they're going after the soliciting funds and the solicitation, basically.
I don't know what, even if it was like, yes, getting awards and keeping the money, I don't know how the individual state would be at loss for that. So I don't think they would be the, how do you call when like you're the party that's been affected by that.
Yeah.
Politically, yes, you can say, well, you were too busy trying to get awards than actually doing your job properly. But I don't think the two things would be connected anyway. And and there could be also a lot of reasons why he believed certain things. I think it's I'm saying I'm gonna give it some grace because everybody thinks that when they would be in certain position, they would be so strict and say the truth and stick up for what they believe. But the reality is that probably 99% of the people would not, because even if you believe something, let's say the pregnancy and everything, but there are always so many pressures from a lot of parties. So that was politics. Obviously, Trump administration needed something because of the election too. The Democrats wanted something different because of the election too. So there were so many pressures, and a lot of people, they're not going to stick up for that. Like, I've been a facility manager and I've been dealing even with the audience, like very dumb stuff, not very high level, not a very high profile, like even safety measure, like don't block the aisles. And every time you're fighting by yourself, you're the only person that say, hey, if there is an active shooter or there is a fire, this is very bad. But what is the chance that there is going to be actually an active shooter? So people prefer in a movie theater blocking the aisle so they can sell more tickets. Or if the famous person come and say, oh, I would like to put something here, and it's an ADA spot. So you have to be the person say, well, you cannot do that. And I've been the person living that on my skin. And sometimes people even on the side tells you, oh, you were right, but they're not going to say that in front of other people, especially when there is a workplace scenario where you might lose your job or you might not get promotion if the boss doesn't like you. So there is a lot of pressure, I think, in those positions. So I think because of that, it would be very difficult in a lawsuit even for them to prove that he did that on purpose. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Sarah. There's just too many people that are connected to this. There's too many people you can point to and say that, well, they believe the same thing. We were following the same the same science. Da 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 da. And it would take years to formulate a good case and bring it to trial. And I'm here again, just being honest with you. He's 85, 86 years old.
85.
Chances are he's not going to live long enough to have this go through with any consequences. And here again, I would argue that I believe it could do the nation more harm than good. I'm a law and order person. Now, if people do bad things, I want to see them locked up.
Yeah.
But we could be years tying up the courts. We could be years tying up investigative resources. We could be years tying up Congress. We could be years tying up all these things. And in the end, odds are he's either going to not live long enough, or his capacity is going to become diminished. That's just the odds when you're north of 85 years old. Yeah. And the amount of time that it is going to take to do this, with all the resources it's going to use, and the amount of doubt it's going to raise in the public, the amount of resentment that it's going to raise in the public, I don't know that in the end it's going to be worth any type of, let's say he gets a year.
Right.
All this for that. I just don't know. I'm going to say it's probably not. And I know a lot of people are hearing this and go, well, he murdered people. Making that a legal sound argument in as many levels of bureaucracy that were involved in this is not going to be easy. It's just that simple.
And I mean, even for the Cuomo situation, there were a lot of people trying to sue him for the nursing home, claiming that he killed all these people. But even that, there are so many different levels. And to me, and we talked about this in the past, I think people are always willing to point the finger to the big guy, but very often it could be also the fault of the individual facilities that they didn't follow the protocol, or they didn't question, or they had a question and they didn't ask it to the people that they could have asked it. So there are so many different level of things that went wrong. Like I think it was Rand Paul or someone else during the hearing was talking about this family that was arrested. They was at the stadium and during COVID. Yeah, but even there, even if there is a rule from governments, at the end of the day, the individual facility that did that should be responsible for that. It's very hard to say it was the fault of the government who did this. And they were also advisories. So I think there are so many different levels, and so that's where I think it would be also very difficult to make Fauci responsible for everything, because he could not be responsible of the individual people deciding what he said.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of people involved. He sent those text messages to other people, talking about the worry of miscarriage. It's not like he was in this all by himself. And Trump himself pushed the vaccine for a while. The media with their narratives, like it really is just, as you both described, such a huge thing. And to put it all on one person, and kind of like what you said too, Sarah, like it's not exactly Fauci's fault that like it was him thrown in front of the camera yes, I mean, he was like trying to get on the news and stuff like that, but also the administration didn't have to put so much weight on him or so much trust in him. So me personally, as much as I want to see him pay for the things he did, including like the shadiness with AIDS and the Beagle experimentations. I'm upset that he was in that position to begin with. However, in my opinion, he's so obsessed with himself and his own image that this is punishment enough. Like he's running from reporters, which he's only a year younger than my grandma, and he is so fast compared to her. No offense, but to my grandma. But I think that all of this coming out is probably punishment enough, because when you're 85, he rose to such fame, and now he's being ripped apart and probably will be until the day he dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, fame is something very difficult to manage for anyone. Like people are always, oh, if I were rich, I would do this and that. It's a lot of responsibility even to have that fame. And especially for someone who is a scientist all his life, he was not used to this kind of attention. It's probably he was not born this way, but when you get so much interest, then you're like, oh, wow, I'm actually pretty cool. I didn't know I was this cool. So I think that's also, it's not just him. I think a lot of people in the same situation would be so amazed about the Kardashian liking me or whatever it is. I think a lot of people would react in the same way. So I think it's a good way to really think about what are we doing as a society and how we live our lives and deal with each other. And especially even what Billy said, pointing finger. And for anyone who asks a question, that's what's happening in society. Since COVID, for sure. I don't know if even before. I don't remember how bad it was before. But now, anyone that question any narrative, it's been seen as like the devil. But even science, what we know about science is based on what we know today. But what we know today is different than what we knew yesterday, and yesterday ended up being wrong because we didn't have the same amount of information. So science has always been wrong in history, if you think about it. So it can get better only if people question. Now, there are a lot of scams. So there are a lot of people that will write reports, they will write something, they will push narratives because there is a benefit there. But at the same time, it's important to ask questions. Like for me, coming from Europe, let's put the COVID aside, because that's also every country did similar things. Even if they didn't have Fauci, everybody reached the same conclusion. So that's what I'm saying, put things in perspective. But even, for example, I question why this country always tried to push the flu vaccine to people all the time. Like I go to the gynecologist and they're like, oh, we have an offer today if you want to get the flu vaccine. And I'm like, the gynecologist, every time. In Italy, the flu vaccine is only for people usually that are 65 plus. I don't know if kids, probably not even kids, but at my age, no one tried to push the flu vaccine. So the question why in this country they keep saying that you're suggesting to get the COVID vaccine, is the flu vaccine, is probably because someone is profiting from that. Unless this country knows something that the rest of the world doesn't know about the importance of the flu vaccine. So, but there are those questions.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, scare tactics are very much used to sell pharmaceuticals. It's probably one of the most common things. The virus may already be inside you.
Yeah.
Oh boy, virus is already in me. And you got to take that with a grain of salt. In that flu, for example, was a vaccine that I took it there for a while. I don't take it anymore. The flu vaccine was always a best guess.
Yeah.
So early in the flu season, they had a pretty good idea what the virus was going to be. Sometimes they hit it, sometimes they didn't. I never understood why it was so important that you get it, for everyone to get it, especially when it was in fact a best guess. So other vaccines are pretty tight. I would have to say measles and things like that are probably pretty tight. I mean, there's very little variance there. So yes, I agree with that. It's become an industry. I was watching the news the other day. I was watching TV, and I haven't watched regular TV in a while. I was flipping through the channels, and just about every other ad was for some kind of a drug, or some disease that I never heard of. And they ask your doctor about
Trumbaya. Is that one of them?
Yeah.
I got dry mouth, I got dry skin, I got dry eye, I got a dry scalp, I got dry hair. I'm all drying up over here. We'll take a drink, And there's a drug now for all that stuff. And another little trick I've noticed too is if there's something that I don't know what it is, they just take the word syndrome and add it on there. Like you got a shaky leg, leg syndrome. Okay, dry mouth syndrome. You name it, and they come up with all these drugs that you got to have. You got to ask your doctor about on your next visit because it's so important. And of course, they've already paid a visit to your doctor, make sure he had all the information on it, and all the ways he can order it, and everything else. So when things become an industry, that's when you really have to start to question, do I really need to take this?
Yeah. But at the same time, like pharmaceutical industry is an industry everywhere. But I think in this country specifically, there is so much corruption about it, like doctors that are sponsored by the medicine and they try to push a medicine every time. That doesn't happen in Italy, for example. So it's very different. You have to be very careful, yes. And some people, I know some person that he feels just a little sick. He takes 6 Tylenol all at once. And it's like, it's so bad. I want to tell you this thing because I was checking the website of the DSA. And so recently they had a convention, the DSA convention, everything. So I couldn't find the whole information about this year, but last year, 2025, they had a big COVID section. So wearing a mask is still very much recommended to wear a mask in 2025. You needed to have a COVID vaccine 1 year, at least maximum 1 year before the event. And you still had to take a COVID test 2 days to attend the event in 2025. To take a test, and everybody needs to be masked. I was reading also comments on Reddit because someone was asking about this year that why do we need to keep wearing the mask, and the person said that the 2025 event was a COVID super spreader. 2025? I mean, that's insane. I'm all for protecting COVID. I was all wearing the mask longer than maybe many of you, but it's like 2025 still wearing masks every time.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was also saying we cannot force, we don't have jurisdiction outside of this conference, but we suggest that you also wear a mask in grocery stores, pharmacies, and all other places to make sure that immunocompromised people are comfortable in those places. Yeah. It's like, this is really insane.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. That kind of feeds into the theory that there was a theory out there that it was kind of a way to show that somebody is compliant, because they still go along with it if they're still wearing their mask.
But I don't think the regular Democrats are into that.
No. Yeah.
Well, Bill Maher showed a picture of that one convention that they had here, and everybody was in this picture looking at the camera, and they all had a mask on. He goes, now keep in mind, this picture isn't from 2021. This picture was just taken.
Oh, I didn't see that episode, but
Yeah.
I guess it was the same thing.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, that tells you where that party is.
Yeah.
And I know people, like having worked in Los Angeles, I know people that still, until I left there, the place I was working in September, October, and still people were wearing masks every time they were in the room with other people. Maybe if they were just with a few people now, but if there was the staff meeting, they were still wearing the mask. If there was the audience, they would still wear the mask, but like the big mask, and not even just the clothed one. Like the one with like nice clothing that makes you like stylish or something.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Well, okay, so since we're on the topic, we were already on the topic of the DSA, and I'm seeing that the Democrats are starting to turn on the DSA because they keep winning all these primaries.
I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know, because there are still too many Democrats that, like, I was like Chuck Schumer saying, we're a big tent. And so I think there are some people who were already years ago saying, hey, be worried about them. Like Cuomo always had issue with the DSA, even years ago, before Zora Mamdani, like people like AOC. So there were always issues about getting stuff done because the far left would oppose project, and they are very not obsessed necessarily, because it's a strong word, a negative word, but especially about environment, they want to block a lot of things because of environmental rule that they want to achieve, or workplace, because they want to protect workers, but they have a very different idea of what protecting workers actually means, because for a lot of people, protecting worker also making sure that they actually have a job. Because if you do rules, so I know, like in New York, Cuomo had before everybody became famous, an issue because he wanted to get Amazon into New York, and the DSA blocked that deal years ago. So because they hate Amazon, I mean, I know a lot of people that you cannot go to that restaurant because it's a chain. We need to go and support small businesses, which I'm all for, obviously. Yes. But still, that thing where like it's the devil, the big corporation. So, but those people also create jobs. So there is that. But yeah, I think that's there is like a civil war inside the Democratic Party, because and I think it's in the population in general. Like I see a lot of people that are Democrats. It's again the Trump derangement syndrome that decides everything. There was someone I was saying that who's the head of the Democratic Party? It's Donald Trump. Because everything he's gonna do, it's gonna affect what the Democratic Party does. And I was like, that makes so much sense, because it's true. Because they just do in reaction to what he does. So he's the head.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so there are a lot of people that say the only important thing is that we win the Senate and the event, like in November. So a lot of people say it doesn't matter. No one is worse than Trump. So we're going to support the DSA because they're our best shot to get that. And then there are the people who say, well, I would rather maybe Trump and Republican to win rather than destroy my city or destroy my state. So I think that's where it's going to be the conversation really in November. And we're seeing these elections. First of all, the polls were saying that these people would like really get so many votes, but for a lot of cases, it wasn't the case. So we have different situations. So Abdul El Sayed, who just won for the Senate, the primary in Michigan. So he also got much less, many less votes than expected. Yesterday there was the one from Francesca Hong, which even there apparently the other guy, no one knew about him, and he ended up winning against the DSA person, but it was very tight. It was like less than 3,000 votes. So in the primary, I think it's pretty much a 50-50 that you have been seeing between people, the Democrats prefer the DSA candidate or the more centrist. So it's going to be interesting in November to see, because all these people that didn't vote for the DSA candidate, will they prefer to vote for the Republican to make sure that the DSA doesn't get in? Or they will say, well, this person is the Democrat nominee, so I'm Democrat, I'm going to just support that. So I think that's the question. It's is Trump the worst thing ever, or is the DSA the worst thing ever, and people will vote accordingly?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, Francesca Hahn is one of the few candidates that I can recall recently that the left-wing wackos, even in the Democratic Party, weren't in a big hurry to get behind. And that is pretty telling. Christmas is bad. Thanksgiving, we should get rid of Thanksgiving. And it just, I think there's a certain lunacy there. And with what you were saying about reacting to Donald Trump, one of my most successful podcast episodes came by accident. I was talking about, this was in the spring of 2024, and I was talking about why the Democrats were on their way to lose that election, and that was when Biden was still the president, still the candidate that was presumed to run. And one of the things I pointed out is you can't use comparison branding and have a good brand. For example, if it's Coke and Pepsi, okay, you can't say, well, drink Coke because we don't taste as bad as Pepsi. That is not a brand. Right. That is, you can't run on that, okay? And that is what the Democrats have been doing. Our person isn't as bad as Trump. That is not a brand. You can't vote for that. Whether you liked him or not, people loved Barack Obama. They voted for him. And prior to that, the last Democrat that had that kind of power was Bill Clinton back in 1992. People voted for Bill Clinton. Okay. What we have now is we have a situation where Democrats in particular are just sitting back and saying, look how terrible he is. Do you want that to continue? Vote for us. It can't. That's not a viable strategy. It just isn't. And if you're letting people like these left-wing people, one of the things I always say is, when it comes to socialism, you vote your way in, but you have to shoot your way out. And a lot of Americans haven't understood that yet. That is why these socialism movements are getting popular. And I would rather see the Democrats form a good traditional candidate. I think it would be better for the country. And I would rather see the Republicans do the same and stop with all the rhetoric and all the name calling, and actually have two viable statespeople, male or female, whichever, run in 2028. I think that would be a lot better for the country, but I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that both sides are going a little bit towards the extreme. And I've been seeing in kind of the conservative online world that they've been rooting for the DSA candidates to win the primary because they think that they have a better chance, that the Republican has a better chance of beating that candidate, which for the most part, I agree with that. But I've said this a lot. I believe that you want both candidates to be a good candidate, because if you lose, then at least the result isn't as bad. When you're hoping for the worst candidate so that you're more likely to win, that's not a good outcome if a bad candidate wins.
Yeah. Republicans really have to get off the social issues. That would be my advice to them. My advice to the Democrats would be, let the socialism go. It's one thing to have a balanced economy. I think most people would agree that when it comes to capitalism is a great thing, but it needs some controls. And how balanced you're going to tip the scales. Republicans would probably say less. Democrats would probably say more. That's fine. Let's work it out. That's something where we are all living in the same universe. We are all playing by the same rules of physics. Okay. We can get something viable done there. But right now, if you listen to a lot of these socialistic Democrats right now, they really want to throw out certain branches of government. They want to throw out all the things that have worked.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, isn't the Senate the most socialistic of all forms?
Yeah.
Because it's give the same representation to the big California and
Yes,
the smaller
absolutely.
Wyoming. Isn't that socialism, Senate?
Yes,
You should
you're
support
exactly
that.
right. And that's one thing they want to get rid of. And then you have the Democrat, the Republicans who just can't stay off social issues. They got to drop the abortion thing. Nothing makes you sound like a cantankerous old man.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting on TV, you're so old you haven't gotten it up in 20 years, and you're talking about abortion. Nothing is going to make you look and sound more outdated than that. And by and large, this is an issue that at this point they are stirring up simply for the sake of stirring it up. It is doing no good to them. They should let that sleeping dog lie and be more concerned with about getting a candidate here again that's going to get our balances under control. The spending is still out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Not it's a lot to talk about here, but what's happening in Iran right now, that's turned into a situation that is far from clear, to say the least.
Yeah.
And there's all these issues that could very directly impact the way Americans are living tomorrow morning. And right now, that abortion issue just simply is not that. That is not what you need to be taking on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that there are certain things that are getting way too much attention, and that goes back to your guys' point about Fauci too. Is are we going to put the resources into something that who's it going to help? With Iran, it's like, okay, I get it. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, but this administration made a lot of promises, and some of them are being kept. A lot of them are not. A lot of people can't afford what they used to.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to someone speak on a show that I listened to, and he basically explained that things were going really well in Trump's first term, and then suddenly COVID happened. I guess I'm spinning back to COVID, but suddenly COVID happened, and things got bad, and they've continued to be bad since 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We really haven't seen that much of an improvement. I mean, some can argue that things got worse under Biden as well, but we're not seeing, okay, great, illegal immigration's being addressed. We want legal immigrants like Sara, but a lot of our kitchen table issues are being ignored, and all of this energy is going into Iran, like you said, issues with abortion and some other things. And you made a really good point too about how that makes the Republican Party look. When I went to our county convention, our county convention, there was me and maybe two other people there that were not 50 or older, and we were the only three that wanted the abortion thing taken off of the plank. So there you're deciding, okay, what do we want the Republican Party to run off of? And a lot of people were fighting for banning abortion altogether. And that was one issue that I spoke on. I was like, you guys are going to lose votes if you keep on this topic. If you keep pushing for this is something that's losing votes. So I agree with what you said.
And I think for the Democrats, the same conversation is for the biological male in female sports. That's something they should drop to, because the majority of people, they understand that it's not fair for people that are biological men to compete with women. And I grew up with men. I played with men all my life. I studied in high school. I was the only female in the class. So I always play with men. But in professional sports, that's really not fair to do that.
No.
And a lot of people agree with that, Democrats. And it's very annoying that people like Gavin Newsom when he's on the podcast, he agrees on that it's not fair. But then when he campaign, then he's a different person again, and he cater to all those crazy far left ideas of the DSA style. So that's also very frustrating, because the Democrats are trying to appeal to those people, and people think that these ideas, what's called what you said before, the Thanksgiving, the Francesca Hong, that's lunacy. But there are people who actually believe that. In the place I was working, one of the people, she did a post on social media for Thanksgiving, come like the morning day, and so of course then the people in charge of the company got mad at that, because she did that, because also, first of all, you're not supposed to put politics, your personal politics, in the workplace, especially when you're posting with the account of the company. But those people, there are real people that really believe all those ideas. So the Democrats need to understand they're probably not going to get those votes, because a lot of those people would rather not even go and vote. Even if, I know people that are considered themselves very far left, they didn't go and vote for Kamala Harris either.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you keep trying to appeal to certain people that probably they're not even going to show up. And a lot of people, like even Zohran Mamdani, they were protesting against Biden and Kamala Harris because of their support of Israel before even the primaries. So yeah, you have to decide. You have to decide that your audience, you're not for everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During the course of my lifetime, I find it very disappointing. When I was in grade school, anything after the year 2000 was like science fiction. It was like, we're never going to get there.
Yeah.
Now we're in 2026. And if you had asked me when I was in grade school, this would have been 1980 or before. What do you think 2026 is going to be like? I'm like, we're going to have flying cars. We're going to cure cancer. We're going to be going to all these other planets. It's going to be just unbelievably great. And the conversations are, is the earth flat? That's what we're debating now. What is a woman? Yeah. Sam, can you tell me what you are? I really would like to know, because it's above my pay grade. One of you tell me what you are, because I just don't get it. And this goes beyond common sense social issues. I am all for the alternative lifestyle community. If you want to live your life as a woman, you want to live your life as whatever sexual preference you want, however you want to live within the walls of your own home, is entirely up to you. And I don't want to see you discriminated against. I don't want to see these people, marginalized in any way, shape, or form. And I think I speak for most Americans when I say that. But here again, getting into what do you think the W in the WNBA stands for? Why was it created? This is the type of thing that I think the Democrats just can't let go of this bullshit, and I think it's going to do them a lot of harm if they don't find a reasonable way to deal with these issues, in a more reasonable and balanced way.
Yeah, it's entertaining that they are now having a meeting to more clearly define what a woman is, now that two males are signing up to join the WNBA.
I thought it was great.
It's great, but you know what? Their arguments are valid.
Yeah, they are.
They have the same chromosomes as the trans people. Everything's the same. They just choose to identify differently. So this is where we're at, and I can't even believe that this is a debate. The kid that was in grade school in the wake of the Apollo missions is very disappointed. How we have people say that evolution is not true. Let me tell you something. They're right. We're de-evolving. Yeah. We're going backwards. Okay, we're going to be back in the sea before long with little fins.
Yeah,
that's where we're going to be if this keeps going the way that it is.
I think the same thing also with the election. People that are saying there is no fraud, there is proof that there is no fraud. But if you actually are not looking for the right things, how do you know there is no fraud? And
Yeah.
people act as if everybody is honest. So I was even trying to understand, even with ChatGPT, if I'm too stupid to understand it. But when you see like what you need to register to vote, first of all, yeah, you don't need really, even if you did the voter ID, which obviously I support as Italian, of course, you cannot go to vote in Italy unless you have your ID with a picture. And actually, you're giving a card where they put a stamp there. So you need to have that to be able to vote. So to me, obviously, the voter ID conversation is another crazy one. Like, it's obvious that you need an ID. But that doesn't solve the problem, because the ID, your ID, the way it is made, it doesn't show citizenship. So in Italy, the one we have, it says if you are a citizen of Italy or another country, because anyone can get an ID, obviously. Like, I'm an immigrant, I can get an ID, and you need to be able to get an ID. But if there was written your nationality, then it would be fine. The problem is that you need to be able to check if someone registered, because when I get my ID online, it asks you, do you want to register to vote? And besides there being written, it's a crime to say yes. But are you actually checking on your other side? Like, if I made a mistake, or if I did that because I'm trying to fake the system, fraud. If I want to do it, if I'm not an honest person, if I want to do that, is the person there that actually received my application double check if I'm a citizen and I'm allowed to vote? And the answer, from what I understand, is no. No one actually checks there. Like, they might be able to see if they have other information. So maybe if another time I said I was not a citizen, and then maybe they double check the record, but it doesn't look like that they have a way to actually check to prove if I'm a citizen. So they just trust that I'm going to say the right thing, the truth. And that's very naive, because an honest person, yes, I'm not going to put my visa on the ballot here for like one vote. It doesn't change anything. But the people that actually want to create fraud, they will do that. And they know they will be able to register people. And now there is actually some people in New York that they are trying to see if the election where Mamdani won against Cuomo is actually legit. So it didn't get much. They don't hear that much in the news, but some people have been talking about that, because some people are looking into the people who register, and they said they found already 200,000 votes that seem like they cannot find where this person live, if this person even exists, or if they live in New York. And even in New York, I saw at the time the rules when I was following the campaign. Even there, like, you just have to say that by the time of the election, you would have lived in New York for 30 days. But you can actually be temporary in New York to be able to vote. So someone could have spent like 2-3 months in New York for a vacation on an Airbnb, and that person would have been able to register in New York to vote for Mamdani. Or if you have a friend, you can just say that you're living on their couch, and you will be able to vote for Mamdani. So I know there are some people that are looking into that, but it's probably like a small, like a right-wing organization, so people are not paying attention. But at the same time, like, you need to be able to question certain things. So, and if you want to shut every person just because it's not convenient for you, going back to the COVID vaccine, you're not going to be able to have like a system that is perfect, true, and honest. So
I've been having a hard time verifying myself with Kalshi. So I don't know if you guys have seen me crashing out on X over it, but I'm like, why is it easier for me to use my married name to register to vote than it is for me to verify myself on Kalshi? But whatever.
Oh, really? Didn't see that.
Yeah, I'm mad. All right. Did you guys want to talk about the Her tapes quick, or have you been following it at all? Do you have time?
I have time.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I just thought that was something. It's kind of getting buried in the news. It was in the news cycle for like a day or two, but the tapes were released, and as well as the ghostwriter tapes showing that Biden was having some cognitive decline clear back in, like, the ghostwriter tapes were like 2016 to 2017. And I think that this kind of contributes to what we were discussing earlier, is losing our trust in the people running our country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was pretty crazy, like, because now even Hunter Biden just said that his father's, like, the cancer is spreading to the bones. So that's usually very bad in cancer when it spreads to the bones. So he might even die before the end of this presidential term. So to think about that he was in such a bad shape, and not necessarily because he didn't remember things, what shows the tape, but the cancer, like, obviously people knew over there what was going on. And I mean, people have been saying that he was not really as, he was not completely there with his head. People saw that. But the cancer, I think that adds an extra level of craziness, because how can you push him to try to run for his next term when he has cancer? And they knew that probably at the time. I doubt that they would not know. So that's pretty crazy to me to think about, that he might even die before. Hopefully not, hope no one dies. But with that kind of cancer, he would not even have made it to the end of the term, and still the Democratic Party pushed for his second term. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing about trust. And getting back to that episode that I did that year that just went out of nowhere, blew up. That was the one Keith Olbermann blocked me on. I have a lot of empathy for someone like Joe Biden, who was in that position, who, I don't know what forces around him were pushing him along, but he was somebody that, he should be enjoying the twilight of his years. And I was saying this in 2024, sitting on the back porch with the dog and just relaxing. He didn't need what was going on around him.
Right.
And it was almost elder abuse.
I agree.
What they were doing to him. Okay. And these special counsel Robert Hur's investigation and everything, with the long pauses and the disorientation while answering questions, it comes as no surprise to anybody that was around watching him on TV. The media made what was it, Joe Scarborough? Oh, this is the best version of Joe Biden I've ever seen. Oh, come on, man! I mean, what are you smoking? Now, this is ridiculous. And here I'm going to say something that may be a little bit controversial. Not controversial, but hard to believe. But I'm telling you, here we go. In 2028, I think on the Republican side, obviously J.D. Vance. I think there's Marco Rubio. And do you know whose name is going to come up on the Democratic side? I can tell you, I can feel it. Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
They're already changing his image. And you know what? He's looking pretty good. In these last couple appearances that he's made, he's been very reasonable. He's been very articulate. He's been very well dressed. And he sounds like his old man. Have you heard his voice? Oh my God. He sounds like his old man. And he is going to pick up this wave of, look what they did to my dad. And that is going to carry him with some momentum. And I don't have any inside knowledge of this. I don't have nothing to point at where I could say, this is where I'm coming. But I'm telling you, I think it's a very, very high possibility that you will hear his name as a candidate very soon, especially after this fall.
I mean, I think people have said that. I don't know if they were saying he should run with Gavin Newsom. I think, but people have been saying that, and I'm like, but
I think Gavin Newsom has less of a chance, far less of a chance in being on that ticket than Hunter Biden.
You think so? You think that he has so much of a chance, but not because of the voters will vote for him, just because the Democrats would push him, you mean?
I think there's a lot of people who would want to avenge what happened to Joe Biden.
But I think, like, especially young people don't like Joe Biden anyway, because you represent the establishment. So I don't think those people that would anyway want someone more progressive, I don't think they would go for Hunter Biden. So I don't know who would be. Maybe the older population. But again, like what kind of not degree as a degree, but
they got 2 years to shape, and they're already
Yeah.
shaping them up. They got 2
Yeah.
years to shape them up. And you know what, Sarah, with the right marketing, let me tell you something. This is no joke. I'll bet you $1,000 on this. With the right marketing, you could bottle water and sell it.
yes, but they cannot market to the people that they already have because that they're not getting good marketing either. Like Gavin Newsom, AOC.
No, Gavin Newsom,
Like-
no. AOC, she's whether this should be relevant or not is beside the point. I know everybody's gonna. Okay, here's another man talking. AOC's got the look.
Yeah.
AOC has the look, and it should or should not matter. We can talk about that all day. It doesn't matter. She's got the look.
I mean, they
Yeah.
say that there are researchers that say if you're good looking, you have more chance to
Yes.
get voted in. So
Yeah.
And with her look, if she just moved a little bit more to the center, she could be an
Mhm.
old-fashioned Democrat.
But I
Yeah.
think that the problem with like AOC, I really don't like her. Like
No, I don't
she
like her
knows
either.
she knows nothing. Like you can see
Oh,
that
she
she
doesn't.
doesn't know anything. She just remembers by heart the thing that she's been told to say.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Zohran Mamdani, he has skills. Like he knows nothing either, but he has the skills to
He's
make
very
you
good
feel
communicator.
like
Absolutely.
he's saying something. Like when someone asks him a question, he answers like if you actually know something, you can hear that he didn't even reply to the question, but it makes you feel like that he did.
Mhm.
But AOC, she only knows how to say the thing that she's been told to say, like
Yeah.
eat the rich and all that. But if you ask her another question, I mean, that's the problem with the DSA. Like some of the co-chairs of the DSA have been going in television lately, people asking them questions. How
Yeah.
do you abolish? I think because they want to abolish prisons, and they ask
Yeah.
them question. So what's going to happen when someone kills a person? Is like, and they're like, well, I don't want to talk about this because I think
Yeah.
we should focus on something else. Like they really don't know how to answer question because they don't know anything. It's just slogans, and I think AOC is really the worst of all of them.
She's bad, but I'm telling you, that never stopped the candidate before.
Oh yeah, a lot of people love her for sure.
Yeah. So I had someone on the show that was talking about Pete Hegseth, and he brought that up, that he's attractive. And I had to think about it for a minute because I don't feel that we've had a lot of attractive male candidates, or maybe they're attractive, but not like close to my age. And I was like, I would like to see Pete Hegseth on TV compared to some of the other candidates. So like, would it sway my vote? I think I'd have to really pay attention to how I was receiving his message. Maybe I'd be receiving his campaign a little bit more favorably just based off of looks. But I agree with you, Billy, on Hunter Biden. I follow him on X, and he was getting ripped hard by other people, and he's actually starting to admit to his mistakes and admit to how many bad decisions that he's made in life. But I personally feel bad for Hunter Biden. Like, I don't think that having his father as president while he was addicted to drugs was good for him in any way, shape, or form. So I do have a little bit of a soft spot, or I just feel bad for him. There is part of me that thinks about that. And then as much as I did not want Joe Biden to be president, I do feel bad for him too. Because like you said, I think that was elder abuse. I don't think that was good for him. I personally think he was showing signs of, now it's proven, that he was showing signs of cognitive decline during his campaigning. I just felt that while he was on the campaign trail, people kept calling him vice president. And I think at some events, he thought he was there as the vice president just based off of certain things that he had said.
Yeah.
This is the first election, the first campaign, you mean?
Yes, for the 2020 election. And I just can't imagine being a wife doing that to my husband. And I know that Jill Biden isn't Hunter Biden's mom, but also like just putting your family through that. So personally, I kind of just blame Jill for not taking care of her family. And
yeah. I mean, she was also denying everything, didn't she? Wasn't there like what she said in the book? that she admitted in the book that she thought that he was having a stroke during the debate.
The debate.
But then in person, I mean, it's
Yeah.
politics, of course, but at a certain point, if the situation is going that bad, at least say nothing. Don't say anything. Just...
Yeah.
You know, I'll say this about two separate candidates from different parties. I believe Cuomo Sr. said on TV that when he was Attorney General, that if he'd have seen the case against Trump involving, I forget her name right now, the
Eugene
stripper,
Carroll.
the stripper. That was the one he was.
Oh, Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels, correct. Mm-hmm. That he was. What he basically did was mess around with the stripper, and he messed the books around so that his wife wouldn't find out about it. Okay, and I'm not saying that's proper conduct,
right?
But that's what rose to the level of prosecuting a former president. And by the way, everybody who's ever gone out to Las Vegas and gone to a strip club has done exactly the same thing. Okay, mm-hmm. It doesn't say nude strip club on your credit card receipt when you get your bill. Okay, it says something like Jonas 134 Communications. That's what it says. Okay, mm-hmm. All right. So that's what they prosecuted him on. And I'll say the same thing about Hunter Biden. I'm not defending either one of these people, mm-hmm. but the gun charge that he had put against him was it sounds pretty serious. Wow, a gun charge. That would have never gone forward if his name was not Hunter Biden. Yeah. All he did was unknowingly, when he was in recovery, buy a gun when he wasn't supposed to, and he bought it legally. Mm-hmm. So this is here again, when we at the top of the show, we talked about mistrust. Mm-hmm. When I start hearing when I hear a Republican talking about it's the end of the world with what a Democrat got away with, or the other way around, I'm skeptical about it. I really don't know. Did this person really do something that was that bad? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that everyone is losing sight on, and we're seeing this with Ken Paxton in Texas. A lot of people are focusing on, and I felt this way with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky too. Although I was like 10 when this happened, but so I don't even know how I could process it. I just remember thinking like, but that didn't have anything to do with his presidency, but then it kind of did because she was innate. Anyways, getting back on track. We're not focusing enough on what they're doing, depending on the politician, with legislation. What are they doing to serve us? We're getting way too focused on their personal lives. Do I think that some of them may have bad morals or may make bad decisions? Absolutely. Everybody does. No one's perfect. But I think that we need to get back to focusing on how are they performing their job.
Yeah.
No. Who do you want to go?
No, I just wanted to say, and then the policy makes sense. Well, now a lot of people are saying, well, maybe the policies are bad, but anyway, they're not going to be able to achieve them. So I'm going to just pick someone who I like personality, because anyway, they're not going to achieve anything. But what if they do that? What if they achieve them and they're terrible policies? So what you were saying before, it's like you have to make sure that on the other side, there is still someone that you're not going to mind. So instead of preferring the worst case scenarios so that you win easily. But I think we need to go back to really policy and
The only thing I'll say about personal lives is, for the most part, I agree with you. Like I think that what you do in your personal life and how many times you've been married and this, that, and the other thing really is not relevant to the job you're doing as a public official. Mm-hmm. In the case of Bill Clinton, what I didn't like about that case was that was a subordinate. Mm-hmm. She was an intern there, which was essentially a subordinate. And if you're in the White House, you're subordinate to the president of the United States. I mean, he's the top guy in the house, right?
Yeah.
And she was starstruck, most certainly. Mm-hmm. And he manipulated that when he should have known better. What I didn't like about that was the way the left threw her under the bus. These are all the same people that were going to become the Me Too people. Yeah. They called her every name in the book. Okay. And the other thing that you don't hear this too often, but it's very relevant, the Secret Service does not like presidents or high-ranking Senate officials sneaking around. Monica Lewinsky could have just as easily been an assassin that he snuck in the back door, okay, or a spy or anything else. And they don't like philandering top officials. It makes their job very hard when the politician in question is sneaking people around behind their back. Yeah. So there's those elements that I'm okay with, for the most part, whatever you do in your personal life. Kennedy, as far as I know, I haven't heard otherwise. He liked prostitutes. He liked Marilyn Monroe. These were all people that were not working under him in the White House. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's right or that's good. I'm not saying that at all. I think it shows a capacity to lie, which makes me very nervous. Okay. Yeah. I don't like, I personally think that cheating on your wife or your spouse or whoever is a betrayal, and it is a dishonesty, and it shows the capacity to lie and deceive. I think those are all bad things. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they're not crimes. And if you're not doing something that, if a police officer got caught with a subordinate, out right now, boom, out, no pension, no nothing, out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And if you're not doing something like that, okay, I'm okay with, for the most part, what people do in their personal lives.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, going back to the Me Too and the conversation we had before, I think that applies to every man, because nowadays, whoever you meet in private, you do your business with, that could really ruin your life. Mm-hmm. And people are really going, like, as you said, she could have been an assassin. But even the people that maybe you're out together and the relationship goes bad, and then maybe the person hates you years later, or someone is going to pay that person just to make some extra money, and she can just say stuff, whether it was true or not true, she's going to get paid to say something against you. So men really needs to be very careful nowadays who are they're dealing with. And a lot of people are still very stupid, and maybe because they're like, oh, I'm not a politician, doesn't matter what I do. But a lot of people have been losing their own careers because someone makes an accusation. So it can really happen anywhere, in any kind of situation. And so you really have to be careful who, both men and women, obviously, because people can really ruin your life anyway. But specifically this time, and what he was doing was stupid, because how can you believe that you're not going to get caught? Bill Clinton, I'm talking. Yeah. But at the same time, at the time, there was not as much like social media, telephone around. So it was a little different time, obviously. But now it's even worse, because really anyone could have a cell phone and try to entice you in a room and use that against you. You just don't know. So.
Yes, absolutely.
You both made really good points, and I never even thought about that from the standpoint of Secret Service trying to protect him, or she could have been a setup. So, all right, is there anything else that you guys want to get off your chest for today?
I mean, I think we could go for hours here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up for now. Where can everybody find you? I'll let you go first, Sarah.
Social media. I'm obviously on Twitter, Instagram. I have a Substack where I wrote a couple of essays, and probably I'm going to talk to Billy about it soon. And I'm going to talk more about the kind of topics. And my website is thisiswhatnewyorkerssay.com. And if people want to learn more about my documentary, about Cuomo and the whole situation, Me Too, they can go to that website and find the links.
Perfect. Billy?
My name is Billy Dees, and the Billy Dees podcast. You can find it anywhere podcasts are found. We've been around over 10 years. Should be real easy to find. You can find me on Twitter at Billy Dees, and it's X now. It's the former Twitter. That's kind of still more or less my social media home. I'm on other places regarding social media, but I think the real-time trending nature of X is where I need to be. So that's where you can find me. Thank you.
Yep, I agree. I'm loving X right now. So, well, Instagram's going all right for me too, I suppose. So, good. Yeah, just depends. So, all right. Well, I want to thank you both for being here, and I'll see you on the other side of this.